two things. One, and if there's any sellers out there listening to this that are newish or kind of have got before, especially now, Carson, it could have been so easy for me to stay at home the next day after I lost, do some quote unquote planning, kind of be lax about checking emails and answering the phone, or choice number two, get out the next day, the next morning, and make a cold call. That's where you separate yourself. That's where the high performers separate themselves from the mediocre pack. If you can lose a deal, go to bed, wake up the next morning, and go out and crush it and keep crushing it, you're going to win. But I think the biggest killer for sales is instant gratification mindset.
Couldn't agree more.
It's the instant gratification mindset has got to go in sales. This job is not built on instant gratification. This job is built on showing gratitude to your company and your customers and your family, and supporting, well, like you said, you're building that brand, supporting those customers, whether you win the deal or you lose the deal. You got to still keep supporting them. There's customers that I talk to of the past of mine that aren't customers of mine that I still support because I remember what they meant to me when they were customers of mine.
If you've got credibility in your organization, that's key. I mean, that's going to serve you very well. You're going to get pulled into your path, right? I mean, you're going to get pulled into different roles. If you've got credibility outside of your business with clients, I mean, they're going to go in a litany of different directions. The other thing too is people always hear about, oh, well, you know, so and so just got called and they got this incoming like bluebird deal, and you know, that never happens to me. Well, you know why?
There's a reason. There's a reason.
It's because you built that relationship. So those things don't just magically happen. You create your own luck. One of my favorite lines in one of my favorite movies is The Color of Money. For some players, luck itself is an art. And it's true because you create the foundation and the environment for success. Sure, I don't get calls all the time, people just begging to buy stuff, but you better believe that it happens sometimes, and it happens because of relationships that were formed. Like you said, we don't know where these relationships are going to go, but if you create them and you nurture them, who knows? And those are the folks that refer you other places as well. The other thing too that I think it's worth mentioning around losses is that no loss is permanent. Several years ago, I had a very challenging career situation where I felt like I was in a good spot, like I had done a lot of really noteworthy and cool things. I got completely counted out in a situation, and it was debilitating. I mean, I think for a lot of people, it would have been the end. I mean, I could have easily gone in a direction to be like, you know, this isn't for me. I'm going to take a different path that, you know, maybe where I make less or I've got less job security or whatever. But, you know, I think true great salespeople are fighters. You keep getting
Absolutely.
up. It's, you know, like one of the best inspirational movies ever is Rocky, right? I mean, the guy only wanted to go the distance with the champion. He had no intention of winning. He just wanted to go the distance so that he wouldn't be known for what he was known for. And he did it. He went the course. Then obviously he went on being a champ, and then he made some sequels that probably shouldn't exist. But the thing of the matter is, it's really just about getting up after every one of these things. You said you lose a deal, go back out there. And like this situation in my career, I made a decision that I could have folded. I could have applied less of myself, but no, I actually turned up the dial. I already thought that I was giving 100%. I wasn't. I gave more of myself than I'd ever given. And guess what? Had a phenomenal year. So you have so much more control sometimes than you give yourself credit for as a seller. You hold all the cards. You've just got to make sure that you understand the full playing field and that you give it your all no matter what.
Well, I think, you know, like you said before, fall 7, get up 8. I think that's a big thing right there. And you know, when that situation happened to you, Carson, you worked with a chip on your shoulder. And I'm telling you, and anybody can argue me with this, send me a DM, send me a text. Sellers work better with a chip on their shoulder. I don't care what anybody says. When they have something on their shoulder that miffs them mentally about a sale or a process, they work better with that chip on their shoulder, and they go out and they should dial it up.
And don't compete against average, and don't compete against quota. Those are ridiculous numbers. Like I can't stand
they're numbers. You're right. They're numbers.
I can't stand it when I talk to a seller that says, "Oh, well, I'm doing just as well as everybody else," or "Nobody's hitting goal. It's not that big of a deal." That's the wrong mentality. You've got to have that. You're competing against yourself. You're competing against your own potential. I could never have a number next to my name that wasn't indicative of the absolute best that I've got. And I'll go down swinging. I've had years. I've been in sales a long time, so it took me a long time for this to happen. But I finally had a years ago where I didn't hit goal, and it was horrible. It was a horrible situation. I was harder on myself than anybody else. But the thing of the matter is, I learned from that, and it didn't happen again. But I think the key element is just because everybody else didn't hit goal, and everybody's like, "Oh, Carson, it's okay. Nobody hit goal." I don't care. That doesn't mean anything to me. I'm competing against myself and my potential all the time. And that's the kind of mentality. If you want to be great at selling, then that's the kind of mentality you have to have. Otherwise, hey, you can be one of the other folks that's out there that collects a check that sells. That's fine. But if you want to be the best, the mentality that you've got to have. I love what you said about the chip on your shoulder. You've got to have that, and you've got to compete against your own potential. Are you truly leaving it all on the field?
I love it.
The last thing I was going to say on that, I'm reading Pat Tenney's bonus round right now, and
awesome.
Right out of the gates, man, he's talking about great athletes. He mentions he's not a huge sports fan, but he pictures himself like walking into some of these big presentations and these big corporates, deals. He pictures himself like he's walking into Yankee Stadium, and that's what we've got to do. I mean, I think most people, we've got some big sporting events going on this time of year. Most people enjoy sports or some element of sports. Look at yourself like you're the clutch hitter that's coming in, and the pressure. Like, don't, I think where a lot of times we make mistakes is we second guess, we doubt. Always go back to people and process. That's it. And if you go in and you feel like, hey, I'm walking into the big game right now. It's time for me to, convert the pass. It's time to me to, make contact. Whatever sport you like, or maybe if you don't like sports, think of something you do like, but relate it to that. Because if you want to be great, then you've got to make sure you understand what it takes to get there.
I agree.